In terms of my mum, she was quiet, very loving. She used to love it when we were at home studying during SWATBAC. She'd make us tea and lunch and talk to us. But she also had a lot of what I would call quiet wisdom. For example, once I was listening to the song Honey by Bobby Goldsboro, where a guy's wife dies and he sings this song about always missing her and the trees are growing and he'd love to be with you. And I said to my mum, well, that's a sad song. She said, oh, he's got to snap out of it. He's grieved, fine, but he's got to find someone else and live his life. He can't hang on to this grief. And I thought, wow, I never thought my mother had that direct, practical wisdom that a lot of, women who've suffered and struggled have. In other situations, she had wisdom about her kids having mentors. And my dad's brother, Uncle Ralph, used to call in and have a cup of tea when he was driving past on his way out to do a job. And he was having a cup of tea and I was studying and I joined them. And he was driving up to a boys' home to build something or to make a quote or something. And my mum said, why don't you go with him? And I said, oh, I've got to study. She said, oh, I really think, unusual for her, she really leaned on me to go with Uncle Ralph. Well, of course, Uncle Ralph is a great mentor. He talked to me all the way up. We had lunch at this boys' home. And then on the way back, he got me to drive the car. I was only 16. I was a year before I could get my license, but he got me to drive the car. And I don't know, it's just something about him. He was just a wonderful role model and mentor. But my mum had the wisdom to know that this would be an important thing to do. A few other things. She wasn't manipulative. We learned afterwards because there was gravel on our driveway next to her bedroom. And she told us afterwards how when we were young and going out late at night and early in the morning, till early morning, she couldn't get to sleep until she heard the car come in and she could hear the gravel. But she never told us that at the time to manipulate us to think, oh, mum's at home worried about us, which is very wise and very loving. Some parents aren't like that. Also, it turned out, and I did not know this either, that my dad's mother, my grandma, had rejected her and had rejected my auntie Norma, Ralph's wife, because they were too working class for her boys. They turned out to be the most wonderful, lovely people. And their husbands were lucky to have them. But again, that's not my point. My point is that my mother never told us. And we noticed that she was kind of reluctant to go and visit Grandma and, so will you go? But we didn't even know this. She never told us. We learned about it afterwards. Again, she could have expressed her anger, disappointment in various ways, but with us, but she did not. We didn't even know. And finally, she had a great sense of humour. My dad, I guess, partly out of jealousy, the famous Australian Navy saying was that the American sailors during the war were overpaid, oversexed, and over here dancing with our girls. And certainly my mum was dancing with these American sailors. So Dad, I think, had probably some retrospective jealousy. I don't know. And it used to bag the American Navy. Oh, they got washing machines. We used to use a bucket, and they had beds. Well, we had hammocks and a bunch of other things. Then he would say, and who sunk the HMAS something or other? There was some rumour that some Australian ship had been sunk by American friendly fire. Well, it turns out not to be true. But there was an Australian ship that was sunk in peacetime after the war. A destroyer, during a night exercise, turned in front of the HMAS Melbourne aircraft carrier and got sliced in half. Just a catastrophe and a clumsy, messy Australian naval thing. So Dad would go on about who sunk the HMAS, whatever it was. And once my mum said, yeah, but who sunk the Voyager? It's the Australian destroyer. Well, 3 kids in the back seat just burst out laughing. Dad never mentioned it again. It's a quiet but brilliant sense of humour. So I'm grateful for my mum, her quiet wisdom, her unquestioning love, and to grow up with such love and affirmation and warmth. It really enriched my life. And I do know people whose mothers have not been like that, and it's made it very difficult for them in life.